Ground effect, carbon fibre, active suspension. Lotus has always looked forwards. The Evija is both extraordinary and the pinnacle. Just the opportunity to drive it, to sit in that seat. I'm sure that's the opportunity that a lot of people are going to want. It's still ultimately a driver's car, and I think that's the Lotus spirit. My father was all about making the best possible car, and the Evija, I think, will be inspirational. It's an extraordinary car.
We've got a proud heritage at Lotus, over 70 years of innovation, ingenuity, being first to market with so many different things, technologies. It's a brand that's been successful on the racetrack, it's been successful on the road, it's created legendary nameplates over time. Evija is a real statement of the future. It will re-establish Lotus in a position as being a leader in terms of engineering, designing world-class sports cars. This is a hypercar that's truly built and engineered for the drivers. It's not one to sit in some collection somewhere. It's a car that's truly designed to be driven.
Designing a hypercar is a challenge. There are lots of people who do very outrageous things when they do hypercars, but it doesn't necessarily lend itself to something which is lasting. But when we saw that sketch, we all just knew that was something different. The one view that is just so unique is the rear view of the car. 2 exit ducts from the 3/4 Venturis that are just stunning to look at, but are completely unique on a car and totally functional. What makes me happy about Evija is the fact that ultimately we've got a very beautiful car, and that was certainly one of the goals when we started, just to create something beautiful.
The elegant simplicity of Evija, the purity, the beauty. It's not an aggressive car, it's a functional masterpiece. It's very dramatic, and it looks fantastic at night. When informed that the next Lotus was going to be a hypercar, there was an explosion of creativity. It's relevant to the future. It sets the scene of what Lotus is about. It's a real piece of history.
The interior design really was actually inspired kind of by the exterior. When you open the door, I don't want there to be a sense of disappointment. I've got to keep this level of excitement going somehow.
I think with both the exterior and the interior as well, you have this sense of something elegant and beautiful, but you continually find detail on the car.
Yeah.
Every element has been considered. We've spent a lot of time designing all the detail around what you see, the exposed suspension, the wishbone covers when you open the door, the detailing of the door hinge. That's taken time and care to deliver that aesthetic, and then when you get in the car, you've got the same level of control and detail.
That's the product of 2 highly obsessive people.
One of the great firsts really for Lotus, and is very rare at the moment, is to design an electric hypercar. But there's nothing been at quite this level of performance. I think we've really explored the potential of the electric package in that the surface language we've used, this carved by air thing, that means that we're managing the air over the exterior surface of the body, but also through the body of the car. Some of that has really only been achievable because of the electric powertrain.
The beauty of electric vehicles is you get all the performance and all the torque straight away. You see an amazing performance from the vehicle. The whole package for the car is something to be immensely proud of. I think one of the areas that I would highlight is the cockpit and the layout. We've really concentrated on making the vehicle so it is for the drivers. Ingress, egress is easy. The driver controls are focused on the driver. So everything is centered around the driver's experience in the vehicle.
Every single engineering decision we've made has had the driver at the epicenter of that decision-making process. So we've kept pure and true to Colin Chapman's original philosophy, so performance through lightweight. We've pushed the boundaries and applied new technology, we've applied new materials and new processes to make this the most powerful battery electric car available today. We've developed the most power-dense e-axle package available today. We've developed the fastest charging car available today. Ultimately, we've designed and engineered the fastest electric vehicle today.
Aerodynamics are really important to the driving experience. If you create a form that is low drag, then you ultimately increase the top speed of the vehicle, you help with acceleration, and it improves the range of the car, so that's really important. The SR-71 was a great inspiration, as were a number of different fighter planes. What's absolutely stunning on this aircraft is the collection of surfaces, so that you have this very soft negative section, concave section, that rolls into this crisp line that runs around the fuselage. It's going to go through the air very quickly, and we want to do the same thing with a sports car.
The main medium or material an aerodynamicist has to work with is the air itself. The driving experience is all about feeling connected to the road, and to feel connected to the road, you've got to have the forces in place on the vehicle which actually attach you to the road, push you into the road, really make you part of the road. And you can only do that by generating downforce. It takes the airflow in at the front, directs it over carefully crafted control surfaces to generate physical vertical forces to push the vehicle into the ground, and then it sculpts it around and ducts it out of the back to fill the void or the wake at the back of the car, which normally creates so much drag. You're generating those forces, you're generating that ability to grip the ground and to have enhanced handling characteristics, but at the same time keeping it slippery and porous. The car literally breathes the airflow it goes through. Evija is the car that I've wanted to produce for the last 33 years.
Evija really is far beyond anything I've done before. For any designer to design a sports car, that's something pretty special. To design a hypercar is really a once-in-a-lifetime experience. We've really used that opportunity to create something very unique, something very dramatic, something very new. I suppose in music terms, we hope this is our Sgt. Pepper moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the world's first electric British hypercar, the Lotus Evija. So welcome everyone, honoured guests, friends, colleagues, members of the Chapman family, investors, and of course the international media. Thank you for joining us at this landmark event for the future of Lotus cars. And welcome to London, the birthplace of Lotus. Now, of course, we're synonymous with the home in Hethel in Norfolk, but back in 1948, this is where it all started, with our founder Colin Chapman and a group of friends, Ocelot, as he would refer to them, operating out of a workshop in Mondsey in North London. And it's great to be here. It's my great honour to stand before you as CEO of this wonderful brand and to present to you our new stake in the ground and our claim to a position back at the top of the world's great sports car market. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Lotus is back. I have been bowled over by this car's looks since the first day I saw it. I hope that you will be bowled over as well. It's a stunning piece of automotive design and engineering. Agile, athletic, contemporary, connected. It's a giant leap forward, a Lotus like no other. Indeed, it's a hypercar like no other. But at the same time, it's true to our DNA. Recognisably a Lotus both in design and in character. That is the magic of this car, and a credit to the whole Lotus team. If the way a car looks knockout, then wait until you hear the statistic. What lies beneath the beautiful skin is equally as stunning. The most powerful car ever to enter production at 2,000 PS. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds and 0 to 185 in under 9 seconds. Maximum speed of more than 200 miles an hour, a range of 250 miles. Full charge capacity in under 10 minutes. Battery power output of 2,000 kilowatts. 1,700 newton meters of torque with torque vectoring. We stuck steadfastly to our lightweighting principles as well. It's the lightest all-electric hypercar ever to enter production at just 1,680 kilograms. Tub weight of just 129 kilograms. Monocoque weight of just 150 kilograms. And car weight without the battery of just over 1,000 kilograms. Evija also boasts unmatched airflow and unbelievable downforce. And, well, I could go on, but I think you're beginning to get the picture. Evija will be the most dynamically accomplished Lotus ever to wear the badge. Now, the meaning of the name Evija is the first in existence, and I think it really lives up to its name with many firsts already under its belt. Symbolically, it is Lotus's first new car in more than a decade, and the first under the stewardship of our majority shareholder, the Geely Holding Group, the world's fastest growing automotive group. And it's thanks to the unwavering support and ambition of our colleagues at Geely that we are here today to present Evija to you. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Geely Holding President and CEO of Geely Auto Group, Mr. An Chong-Wei, to Mr. Daniel Lee, Executive Vice President and CFO of Geely Holding and Chairman of the Group Lotus Board of Directors, to Peter Horbury, Executive Vice President of Geely Design, all of whom are with us here tonight in support of this pivotal event in our future. As with all Lotuses, Evija's project code is a type number, type 130, the latest in a long line of great types from Lotus. It follows in the footsteps of some truly remarkable game changers in the automotive and motorsport history. For this reason, we'll produce no more than 130, and already, just a few weeks since we've even confirmed the car's existence, we have received many serious expressions of interest from all over the world. The first cars will be shipped to customers next year as we start production in a specialist new facility. Evija, like all Lotus sports cars, will be hand-built in Ethel in Norfolk. The Evija is our new halo, the beginning of a new legendary era for Lotus cars, putting us back on the map and, crucially, back on the consideration lists and being a new poster child for sports and supercar fans all over the world. It performs like a beast, but it looks like a beauty. And to tell us more about how the Evija has been designed, please welcome to the stage Lotus Cars Director of Design, Russell Carr.
Thank you, Phil, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here tonight. In my 29 years at Lotus as a designer, I can safely say I've never received a brief like this before. To design the world's most powerful, most aerodynamic, and most beautiful EV hypercar. So no pressures there at all. As I said in the film you saw earlier, this really is a chance in a lifetime. We're well used to designing sports cars, but this is something very, very special. But I'm immensely proud of what the team of designers and engineers at Heffel have achieved with this. And I really mean that. Even if I was a designer at another company, I'd still be very impressed. This really is a stunning vehicle. It really is the pinnacle, technically and aesthetically, but then I would say that. As you'll probably tell from the presentations, we've got a huge emotional investment into this vehicle. We've ate, slept and drunk it for the last 12 months, maybe nearly 20 months if you count the first sketches on it. We've been absolutely driven. We've driven our colleagues, our families to distraction with the obsession for detail on this car, as you heard my colleagues mention earlier. But it had to be done. As a hypercar, this has to be the best of the best. It has to be the best performing, it has to be the best technically, and of course, from my standpoint, it has to be the best looking car, which, as I say, is a big ask. So, when we do a car like this, we try and help ourselves by setting certain aspirations and inspirations. So first of all, the goal was to make a beautiful car, which sounds an obvious thing, but sometimes when you do these sorts of vehicles, it's easy to fall into the trap of just doing something that is shocking. And we wanted this to be beautiful. It has to be contemporary. All great Lotuses, both road and track, were a brilliant blend of technical superlatives and aesthetic perfection. And it was important this car was the same. It has to have unique features, and when I walk you around the car, you'll see there's some certainly very different approaches to certain elements on the car. But at the end of it, it has to be recognisable as a Lotus, and we'll talk about some of those features which are very Lotus in a second. I think for me though, one of the things that makes it a Lotus is this blend of form and function. And I know that's a very overused term by designers, but for a Lotus that really is important. You've only got to look at some of those beautiful racing cars and road cars from the 1950s or any era, 1960s. They are a perfect blend of function and aesthetics. And that's what we wanted to capture on this. Of course, we take a lot of inspirations from our cars of the past. We've got some brilliant, iconic cars from our back catalogue. So you'll notice on this the very strong fender lines, the haunches on the car. Maybe they reflect a Type 30 or Type 40 Lotus of the past, or even indeed one of our current cars like the Evija. We also take inspiration from aerospace. Again, very overused by designers, putting pictures of fighter planes on the wall, but when you're designing a car with extreme performance, you can take a lot of inspiration from another form of design where you have to design a form that penetrates through the air with the minimum of drag and the maximum of speed. We also take inspiration from what technology allows us to do now. Certainly doing an EV packaged car, it allowed us certain opportunities to do things differently, and certainly some of the infotainment side of the car as well. And occasionally we might even take inspiration from nature as well, and maybe we'll mention a couple of those things in there. For me though, there are three things that we always think about when we're designing, which are core Lotus values for years and years. They are philosophies that stand the test of time. We think about lightweight or weight efficiency, particularly on an EV car. We think about driving dynamics, and we think about aerodynamics. Now, in the design that we do enhances the performance in those areas. We're on to a winner. And if we can express those functions in the design as well then we really hit the jackpot. On this car, as you saw in the film, aerodynamics was really key. And very early on, working with my colleagues in the aerodynamics department, we staked out a desire to do what they call porosity or transparency, a way of managing the airflow through the car as well as over the external surfaces. Technically what this does, it enables us to reduce drag, but visually what it does, it opens up a whole new world of sculpture, a reason for doing things differently. And for me that's really important. If you do something visual, it's nice if it has a technical reason behind it, or certainly some sort of reason. And certainly this sculpture, we called it Carved by Air, really drove the design, and we'll see some of the facets on that as we walk around the car. Shortly I'll just take you through the details on this car, but first of all, as with all designers, I think the first thing to look at is the proportions. It's really key on any car that you get the proportions right first of all, and for me this is done perfectly on this car. Shrink-wrapped body over the mechanical components, the cabin hunkered down between the wheels, the haunches, the fender lines looking really muscular on the car. The car looks like it's going to be dynamic even when it's standing still. It looks like it's got a low centre of gravity. It looks like it's going to be a car that handles well, a car that's for the drivers. So I think we started with, a good proportion right from the early days on this car. So if I take you around the details of the car, and we'll work front to back, and like all good movies, we start with a good opening scene and then we end up with a dramatic climax at the end. So first of all, looking into the corner of the car here, where we would normally have a traditional radiator, it's actually horizontal, and what this does, it allows an open passage here, so the air can pass into the wheel arch and be evacuated behind the wheel. This allows for the air to move very quickly through there. Fast-flowing air reduces drag. The absence of the radiator also allows us the maximum surface to create aerodynamic surfaces on the car. So you see a very complex multi-element wing in here. beautiful but technically efficient as well. And of course, if you look deeply enough in here, you'll see the beautiful wishbones in there. So for anyone who likes sports cars, seeing these technical details is really, really important. This flavour of porosity, or as I called it, carb by air, follows as you look towards the back of the hood, the bonnet on the car. It's completely open through here, and this allows the air to pass underneath it and be smooth before it passes over the cabin, creating a smooth dynamic airflow. The front of the car is not just all about aerodynamics though, it's also about details that mark it out as a luxury product. So you can see here the badge is a fantastic combination of carbon fibre and inlaid metal. On the concept car here, we're showing it as inlaid titanium, but it could be silver or it could be some other precious metal, whatever the customer desires. You can see the exposed carbon fibre at the front. The whole of the body is made out of carbon fibre, as is the tub, but we've shown it off into key areas just to remind people that this is real race car technology. Another smart detail on the front of the car here is the headlight. So you'll notice in here the daylight running lights and also the direction indicators. They're actually shaped like wings. So throughout the car, because of this high performance characteristic, we've taken lots of influences from aviation, and you can certainly see that there. I should have mentioned it's also carried through in that wing section at the back there. We've also got the latest technology on this in terms of functional aspects. So we've got laser lights for both main and dip beams. So that's one of the first cars to have that featured on a road car. So as we start to move to the side of the car, have we sound? No. How are we going to do this? So as we start to move to the side of the car, sorry about this. You'll notice the emergence of the classic front haunch, the muscle on the front of the car. So that immediately conveys power to the car, but as a driver it's really important because you can see the corners of the car. So a car that's for the drivers, it's really important that you can place it on the track. On the side of the car you'll notice there's no traditional mirrors, and that's because for first on a Lotus we've replaced the mirrors with cameras which deploy out of the side here. So very much a leading edge piece of technology, but also a little bit of Lotus. Everyone remembers the Lotus with the pop-out headlights, and in this case we've got a pop-out mirror. In that same area, you'll notice in that image there, the very exposed wheel and tyre. If you're like me and you like motorsport, seeing a big fat tyre there is always a very emotional part of a car design. But of course that's not just there for aesthetic reasons, it's also there for functional reasons. It allows the air to be evacuated, keeps the air moving quickly, reduces drag, and it also takes the pressure out of the wheel arch, which would normally create lift. As we move to the side of the car, we start seeing some really elaborate sculpture. We had a lot of fun doing that. At the top of the car, you can see how the section rolls off the roof into the edge of the vehicle. A little bit like when you look at the front view of some of the fighter planes, where you see the section rolls off the canopy into the edge of the fuselage, into the chime line on the fighter plane. And then we start to see emerge the start of the big story, this huge intake on the side of the vehicle. And that's not there to feed a radiator, that's all part of the airflow management to reduce drag. That feeds what the aerodynamics guys call a 3/4 venturi. And as we move to the rear of the car, this really is, for me, is the killer view of this car. This is the jackpot. This really has everything you'd expect from a sports car and from a hypercar. Wide, muscular, the cabin hunkered down. It looks like a car that's going to be dynamic. But then you've got this totally unique feature of these exits from the Venturi, which, as I say, are there totally there for functional reasons. But we had a lot of fun doing that. We did it in a very sculptural way, as I called it earlier, carved by air. And some people might want to treat it as a piece of sculpture. So buried inside there, we've got a couple of LED lights on either side, so someone can relax of an evening, put the lights on and admire the back of their car. Just to rub salt into the wounds of the competitors, we've done something very different with the rear lights. We've ringed the Venturis with these ribbon lights, and from a distance they look a little bit like afterburners or reheat on a jet fighter, so a nice little playful touch on that. The Lotus name illuminated on the back, flush in there, and the T, rather cleverly, is the reverse light. So I guess a very Lotus solution there, one part doing two jobs, a badge and the reverse light. As you probably gathered from the way I've described the car, we've done a lot of work to make sure the aerodynamics are passive and aren't too intrusive, but we do have some active surfaces on the car. So we have an active rear wing, and we have an active DRS flap that optimises the performance of the diffuser. We also have here the charge flap on the car, so there's a little bit of theatre there when that's deployed as well, and you can plug the car in. Of course, this car being EV, there still needs to be a lot of emotion behind it, and the people who buy this are still going to be transfixed by the technical aspect of the design of the car. So as you walk up to the car, you'll notice when you look through the glass, you can see the top of the battery pack and the cables running off it, which has the same emotion of looking at a normal combustion engine in there. All the battery pack placed to the middle of the car, perfect weight distribution for agility and dynamics. And also, as you look through that same piece of glass, you'll see all the beautiful motorsport-derived inboard suspension, which is really a treat to look at. So that's pretty much the exterior. I think it'd be good to move on to the interior. So as you can see from the image up there, a very different view when you look through the screen for the first time. We haven't got a traditional dashboard. It's completely open. We have a floating beam going across the car. It's a very light to look at. Also lets a lot of light come inside the car, so it feels a totally different driving experience when you're inside there. It's also a very Lotus solution because that beam does more than one job. It carries all the ducting for the vents, and it's also the structure that supports the steering column. So hopefully Mr. Chapman would be proud of us, one part doing two jobs there. As we look more carefully inside the interior of the car, the first thing will be apparent is that we've designed it for the drivers. So all the surfaces wrap around the occupant. They are basically making sure the driver feels like he wears the car. And that's highlighted by a light strip that runs around the interior as well. It's a very pure, minimalist interior, not raw, not like a race car, and that's something we wanted to make sure. It's still got to feel like a luxury good, but very weight efficient, very simple inside the car. Once you're inside the car, what you may notice looking at the image at the back there is everything is being designed around the driver. So we spend a lot of time getting the package right, working with people like Gavin Kershaw from our attribute group, who's also a championship-winning racing driver as well, to get the optimum driving position. At no point should the driver be distracted at all. Everything should be intuitive. So in front of the driver there's just one single screen, and through that screen we drive driving information, so obviously performance, range, etc. But also you can plug in your phone and you can have your navigation, you can have your music and your phone as well. So everything's in front of the driver or he's looking down the road. You interact with that screen through a wheel in the centre console. So again, no eyes needed to be taken off the road, or there's some shortcut keys on the steering wheel, which as you can see is very much a motorsport-inspired steering wheel. The centre console itself is something very interesting, very elegant, slim panel. And we've got touch switches on there, but because we want that to be very intuitive, we've shaped the surface so that the driver can actually feel where the buttons will be. It gives it a very unique flavour visually, but it's also a very functional solution as well. The seats are very elegant, carbon fibre shells, thick pads on top of them. I guess in furniture terms it's a little bit like a Barcelona chair, very elegant structure underneath, thick comfortable pad on the top. And through the centre of the seat we've got an inlaid metal strip into the carbon, which the owner can personalise with their own message. So we've got engraved on the metal strip for the drivers, but the owner could maybe put a personal family motto or something like that going through there. So a nice little touch of jewellery inside there. You can probably just gather from this image here, we talked about cameras rather than mirrors on the outside of the car. So we've got the two side cameras feed screens on the two doors. And then in the header area, where we traditionally have a normal mirror, we've got the central camera as well. So all very intuitively laid out inside there. And I think probably the final thing really on the interior is just the marvellous mix of materials we've got inside there. So you've got carbon fibre, so something very technical, machined aluminium parts, and then you've got a lot of soft trim, and all these can be bespoke to the customer's taste. Different finishes on the metal, different soft trim, and of course the carbon fibre. So for me, quite a British approach to luxury, maybe a very Lotus approach to luxury. We're combining two facets which this country's well known for, aerospace and motorsport technology, but also with a little bit of bespoke tailoring. And one final little detail inside the car, which is rather nice, just tucked in this area, we have one small space left that isn't full of mechanical components or airflow management, and we've tucked in there two beautifully formed carbon fibre cases. So you just push a button and it deploys the case out of that area. So a little bit James Bond, a little bit like the daggers coming out of the briefcase, or the sovereigns, or whatever he had in Dr. No, whichever film it was. So there we have it. You guys are obviously going to look at this in a few minutes and ask us more questions on it. But the car, I think, as a team, we're all immensely proud of. Something which we think we've achieved the goal of making a very beautiful car and a very innovative car. So on that, I'll hand back to Phil Popham. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Fantastic job all round. We're very proud of both the engineering and the design team. Now, I've been asked a few times why Lotus decided to embark on this project so soon after our acquisition. Why are you building an all-electric hypercar, exclusive, electric, and priced at around £2 million? That's the frequent question I get. And for me, the answer is simple. If you want to make ripples, you have to make a splash. If you want to be on the map, you've got to make your mark. And if you want to be the best, you have to deliver outstanding. Good enough is never enough, as someone at Lotus once said. Now, it's much more than a vanity project. It heralds the future direction for Lotus. It tells of our electrified future. It's a stunning and landmark piece of design. It's a car like no other, and will re-establish the brand in the hearts and minds of our fans around the world and on the global automotive stage. It will also pave the way for further visionary models, signalling the future design direction for a new generation of Lotus sports cars. It is the first externally tangible expression of our 10-year plan for the business, which we've coined our Vision 80, a strategy which commenced as a 10-year plan around the time of the company's 70th anniversary last year. Evija also demonstrates what Lotus is capable of. It continues Lotus' commitment, a commitment that is truer today than at any time in our history, a commitment above all else and beyond every other sports car maker to be first, last and always for the drivers. It's built into this car. That's why we've gone to such lengths to design and engineer the masterpiece that we believe that it is. Now, we've a long history of stunning the world with our ingenuity and innovative thinking. We haven't done that for quite a time, but here, this evening, we're doing it again, right now, with Evija. Lotus has also never shied away from collaboration, from powertrains to even lending our name to other OEMs so that they could make their mark in the performance and dynamics. Evija is another great example of collaboration, with Britain's Williams Advanced Engineering on the powertrain, and with others too on F1-inspired suspension, bespoke tyres and more. And we'll carry this collaborative pattern forward, growing the Lotus Cars business and also the renowned Lotus Engineering Consultancy, always supporting the UK skills base, economy and famed place in the world of advanced engineering and technology. Lotus will be at the heart of this. Evija makes a big global statement for Lotus. As we roll out our future business around the world with new sports cars, new technologies, new segments and even new markets, Evija is our new calling card. And what a calling card it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lotus gives the world the Evija. Thank you.
You see the numbers? Yeah, about 500 at once. Oh, really? Good.